everyone, welcome back to another Tea Time with me, Amanda Prochaska. I'm so glad you are here. We are in the height of kind of wrapping up the year and planning for next year, so I have a feeling some of you are working on business cases. So let's talk about the 5 must-have elements in any business case that you're trying to put forward. Whether you're a practitioner or someone who's selling, this video is for you. So grab your favorite drink and let's sit down and have this conversation. Again, my drink is not overly awesome today. I usually have a fun cup, but I am actually fasting today. So this is some water that I'm drinking this morning. Love making videos when you're fasting. But today is all about the 5 must-have elements of any business case that you are putting forward. And I will tell you that, I learned the hard way. As most of these videos that I produce, it's from lessons learned or watching people who are doing it successfully. And now Wonder Services helping our clients do this and get their initiatives moving forward. Business case is often a very large barrier to do that. Now, there are other elements outside of what's in the business case that's important to understand. I will also cover that at the end of the video. Okay, let's get into it. The 5 key elements are stating the problem, and it has to be in this order. Don't get the order wrong. So many people do this wrong. Okay, problem first, vision for the future. I just gave myself a thumbs up on the video. Not the solution, okay? Vision for the future. The solution comes next with this is number 3. Then the numbers come in, investment, return, etc. And then you end with the credibility and the hero story, okay? So I know I just went through all of those really quickly, but let's dive deep into each of these so you can get a better understanding of why they're important. So number 1, as I mentioned, is stating the problem. Here is where so many people get this wrong, okay? Right out of the gate. They start talking about their solution before we ever identify the problem. Wrong, right? Like, you need to start with the problem. And it's not your problem. So I tell procurement leaders this all the time, or other leaders, or even salespeople. It's not the problem you're facing. It's the problem the decision maker is facing, okay? So it's not I need something, it's you need something. It is a critical shift in the tone of these business cases. You need to make sure it's not about you, it's about them. So I like to give the example of when you go into Mr. and Mrs. CFO's office and you say, I need more resources because then I can achieve X, Y, and Z. Or you can go in and saying, you need procurement to have more resources so you can achieve X, Y, and Z more effectively. Make it about them. Okay, so problem comes first. It needs to be their problem, and you cannot jump to the solution right out of the gate or credibility or anything else. I remember when I was sitting, quick side story, didn't intend to go here today, but I remember sitting in office at corporate, one of my last jobs that I had, and we were actually going through an RFP. So we had maybe 5 or 6 different suppliers come in and pitch us. And it was bored out of my mind. Because it was all about them, but because they went to slide 1 was, what am I all about? And then slide 2 was, here's a list of logos that we've supported. And I literally started guessing in the room and like playing a game with myself around when certain slides and presentations would show up, because they were so generic and so boring, and they weren't about me. They were about the seller in the room. Okay, so make sure you always start with the problem first. Number 2 is vision for the future. So put your solution aside, put it in the drawer still. We're not talking about a solution yet. We're talking about here's a problem, and here's what the future could look like when you resolve that problem. Usually this slide starts with a statement like, could you imagine if, or could you imagine when? Something along those lines to paint the picture, the vision for the future if this particular problem were to be solved. Okay, so this This is a high story moment. Not that you want to go into stories about your customers, because that will come here in a minute. But if you have a story that you can tell as part of your pitch right here around the vision for the future, an example of where you're doing it well today without whatever you're asking for, or a life example that applies to this vision, whatever it might be, make sure that that vision as the leader in the room is very crisp of what you could achieve if this problem were to be solved. Okay, so that's number 2. So many people jump straight to the solution. Again, like they just go past these first 2 and you're going to be off kilter from the very beginning. Number 3 is the solution. Okay, so you are now, once you've painted the picture of their problem, the vision for the future, using maybe a story or some really creating an emotional response around what that vision could be, that's when you come in with your solution. Okay, now, where again, most people get this wrong is that they sell one solution, right? So, and I live in the procurement world, so I always love using procurement examples, but often a procure tech will come in and say, here's your problem, if they do this correctly, which most of them don't, but here's your problem, here's the vision. My procure tech is going to solve all of that, which is not the case, okay? Rarely is that the case. So problem, vision for the future, solution should be multifaceted. Think about it as a comprehensive solution versus a silver bullet. So think through, especially as you're a leader building a business case, you can say, hey, I do want this procure tech, but I know for this procure tech to be successful, we're also going to be considering doing these other things in the organization to really truly get our return on investment. When you do it that way, people get turned off by silver bullets. I think they want to believe in a silver bullet, but they know in reality that usually doesn't happen. So it automatically gives a connotation that this business case is half baked. Okay, so you don't want to go in that way. The other way, like if you think about it in a comprehensive sense, then the decision maker that you're in with is like thinking to themselves, oh my goodness, they really thought through what this is going to take to really make this successful, including any risks that you might have to success. That is all part of the solution. So wouldn't it be enlightening if a procure tech vendor came in and said, here's our solution and we're going to fix this piece of this problem, but we also are going to need to consider doing X, Y, and Z. And oh, by the way, from our experience, we know that inherently there are these risks and we're prepared to mitigate those risks in these way. Oh my gosh, it would be freaking mind-blowing if we did it that way. Okay, so number 1, problem. Number 2, vision for the future. Number 3, comprehensive solution. No silver bullets will be presented in this business case. Okay, number 4, wouldn't it be a business case without numbers? I guess. So you can do your greatest job here around setting up the problem, creating an emotional response in the vision, doing a comprehensive solution, but it really, most of the time, there's a numbers component to it. So make sure, I don't like when people put in cost, right? It's usually an investment that you're making with some sort of return. So make sure you check your language here. You're making an investment into the future. You've already painted what that future could look like. And you're talking about here's your investment, one time, ongoing, and your returns on that. Now, your returns don't necessarily have to be financial, although that obviously helps. Think about returns in a broader sense of that, where you have actual hard dollar returns and your other returns that you could have as part of it, more soft returns, cultural returns, other longer term future benefits that you could have with this implementation. Also think about timing. I was just talking to a leader at a conference and he was reflecting on some of his journey and he was like, I would have sold this differently if I could do it over again, because I was talking about returns in year 1 for a particular investment, when in reality, when I look back on it, it was really going to be a year 2, year 3 return, which makes a difference, right? It might not look as attractive on your numbers or within your story, but if it's real, you want to make it as real as possible, because you're the one as a leader pitching this idea and you need to make sure that it's realistic and attainable at the end of the day. Okay, so that was number 4, all about the numbers. Okay. Now we've put this story together. We have a problem, we have a vision, we have a solution, we have the number side of it, and how do we wrap up the conversation? And that's with number 5, and that's adding credibility. Okay, so you want in any pitch to create an emotional reaction, whether it's a wow or wow, that's a super interesting insight, or motivation, like that CFO sitting in that spot is like, not only do we need to do this, but we need to do it now. That's the kind of response that you want to gain from your particular approach here. But the way that you really solidify it is you have an emotional response with the first 4. Then after you show the numbers, because sometimes the numbers can get tricky, right? That's an investment. You're asking for something and people don't like to give up money typically. The last one is all about credibility. So you can say, hey, we need X millions of dollars, but credibility statements, stories, case studies, the way that this has been implemented before and people's actual returns on their investment go a long way. So right after the numbers, switch to the credibility. So add some case studies, add some stories, show the decision maker that you've done your homework and you know the path that you're recommending is right because you have the other experiences behind you, whether your own or others that you are learning from. And make sure during this credibility phase that you always go back to making the decision maker the hero. So I told you at the beginning with the problem statement, it's not your problem, it's their problem. Well, by the end of your story in number 5, you need like language like the CFO is now going to be one of those case studies moving forward, right? Around how you can do this effectively. So tie back your story to making your decision maker the hero, painting a future through using your stories, those case studies, etc., to put them front and forth, right in the center, and that they can truly be a hero in this story. And those are the 5 key elements. Now, as I mentioned, people get this wrong all the time. In fact, I did this wrong 2 days ago. We did a pitch deck to someone, and luckily ourselves, wrong, a page about credibility, the people that we support, which was wrong. So I need to take my own advice here, but these 5 different areas work the best. So if you are creating a business case, make sure that you follow this flow as closely as possible and you will be more successful moving forward. Now, I promised something at the beginning, and I want to make sure that I circle back to it. These 5 elements are what goes into a PowerPoint presentation or a deck or or like a Word document, whatever you guys use for a business case. It could be a video. I don't know. But this is the story that you want to tell. But there are other elements that need to go into your business case being successful. And one key one that I'm going to give you here today as a bonus is making sure you're not the only one in the room pitching your idea. So many leaders get caught up in making sure that their story is right, that they forget that there's power in multiple people sharing the same story to that decision maker. So what I would do as you're preparing this particular story is think about the people who are closest to that decision maker, who the decision maker trusts. Try to go to those other people and collaboratively work through this story with them, with the idea and hope, and maybe you can even ask them, for them to be champions of your story. So instead of you coming in solo into this quote unquote pitch, you have other people who have relationships with the decision maker who can also come in and help you do the pitch. Multiple voices that are supporting an effort will always win over one. Okay, over one. So I will give you key learning. So I was back at Kraft and we were pitching a new idea for a Procure Tech, and I knew the particular leader that I was going into the room with was not a huge fan of the concept, but I was like super jazzed about it, and I was like, we have the right story, and there were a bunch of other leaders in the room with me, and let's just say I was the only one in the room who knew the story and was supportive of it, and I did not get those other few people who were in the room with me. I didn't align them first, and I didn't seek their questions, and I didn't ask them to be supportive in the room for the areas that they were supportive of. I think that most of those people were supportive, but I didn't activate them, right? So when the key leader started pushing back on me, he was pushing back on me alone, and I was the one that had to defend everything versus having other people aligned to the concept. So make sure, needless to say, I didn't get an approval on that, but make sure if you can, try to build a bit of consensus and have those people in the room to help champion it with you. So you're not the only one presenting. Maybe they have a piece of it or perspective on it, or they can help answer questions, whatever that might be. So 5 elements plus getting people involved so you're not the only voice in the room will help you get that business case to an approval status. I hope you enjoyed today. I love doing these videos. I am the CEO and founder of Wonder Services. In fact, I call myself the Chief Wonder Officer. And we publish these videos on a regular basis to help you be successful, because that's my #1 mission, is to help you accelerate your growth and really create innovation within the industries that we work in. So please like the video, subscribe to us long-term so you can get more great content like this one.